Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Rahma, and in today's video we're going to talk about why is it important for you to attend conferences, and I'm going to give you the top 3 reasons why you should attend conferences. First of all, for most people, we realize that by the time we reached our senior year in college or we've graduated, we don't really have much of anything to place on our CV. Like, we were so consumed by the heavy workload of medical school that we don't really have the time to really establish anything extracurricular or in any other particular field of interest that you might have. And then you realize that your CV is practically empty, and this is a problem that I've had and a lot of problems that my friends and colleagues have. So having attended conferences is actually a really nice thing to have on your CV, because at the very least it shows that you are taking the initiative and that you are very proactive in knowing what is the most important thing in the medical field at this time. So it just goes to show that you're willing to take from your spare time. You could be studying, you could be doing anything else, but no, you're deciding to attend conferences to learn what is most important, things like that. And that really shows that you are taking initiative, and that's really important. After you attend a conference, you're going to get a certificate, and then you can place that on your CV. So at the very least, it's a lot better than having nothing, let me tell you that. It's a lot better than having nothing, okay? So wanting to have certificates of the conferences that you've attended, and you place that on your CV, and maybe in the future we can do a proper example of how to do a CV. I can show you guys mine as an example. But showing that you are attending and you put in the dates, and at the very least it just shows that you have something, even though you have minimal chances or minimal opportunities to do things, at the very least you are taking steps in the right direction. The second reason why you want to attend conferences is because it is a good chance for you to communicate with other people and build connections. A lot of people say the words build connections. What does that mean? Well, how do you do that, right? So building connections, you can do that through a conference. In a conference, you're going to find like-minded people in the audience, as well as people who are giving those lectures and those sessions. So you can stay behind, and if there's something that you're really interested in and you want to know more about it, you can stay and wait, or you can ask questions in the Q&A sessions, or you can wait all the way to the end and get a chance to speak personally to the speaker and even get their contact information. One example of this is when the very first conference I ever attended was the World Glaucoma Congress. And that was held in Melbourne, Australia. When I went there, one of the doctors that was giving a session there was something that was like really interesting. It had nothing to do really with ophthalmology. It was kind of like an extra session. But it was about whether, the practicalities and the pitfalls of, focusing either entirely on clinical medicine versus research-related medicine, and he was talking about these things, and I was just kind of, still taking my baby steps in this direction, and I just found his discussion was so interesting, and I waited until everybody else spoke to him, and I got a chance to speak with him, and it turned out he was Canadian as well. He's in Montreal, and I got his contact information. I asked him a couple of questions, and we are still in contact to this day. So that is really interesting. Like, that is the way for you to sit down and show that you're interested, and for you to communicate and to connect with other people. You can also connect with other people in the audience, get a chance to see who are the people in the specialty that you're interested in, right? Because people who are in conferences are meant to show you what is the most high yield and most important things that are on the front lines of medicine right now, right? So the last thing I want to say is that you can use conferences as a way to figure out what is going on in the front lines of medicine right now, and that's very important if you're interested in research. So today I attended a conference, and I was realizing, like, I'm trying to figure out what direction I really want to go to right now once I finish up my house officer year, and I still haven't really picked a specialty yet, because as you guys know, honestly, with the USMLE residency and the way things work with residencies abroad, I don't really have the luxury to pick and choose anything, especially since I really want surgery, but I'm not gonna, that's not the pedestal I want to die on, essentially. But I would hopefully like to be accepted into surgery. So I realized I saw a post a couple of days ago where people were saying that the average publications for most specialties now, it just shot up through the roof. 2 years ago, the average publications was 20. So I'm well within that range. However, it's that was 2 years ago, so I'm not sure what it is now. We're talking about maybe 40 right now or something. God knows what it is exactly. So I realized, I need to work on a couple of more surgical papers, and unfortunately, the idea of hands-on work is very rare and very limited. So either I'm going to work on a review or a systematic review and meta-analysis. So I was like, I'm going to attend this conference, and I have my notes here. I'm going to attend this conference, and I'm going to see if there is, I want to know what is the high yield issues, what are the frontline problems that people in surgery are facing right now. That way I can see what are the research questions that I could potentially draw out from there, and then work on either a review or systematic review or meta-analysis. So conferences are a really good way for you to know what is the problems right now, so that you can go in and check the literature and see if anyone has any solutions for it. If it's just a minimal amount of papers, you can do a review, but if you find that there's people comparing 2 procedures to give you the best results, you can collect that information, do a systematic review, meta-analysis. So I have like a couple of ideas, 4 or 5 ideas here. I'm gonna sit down and see if there's anything in the literature for me to really make a solid research paper on any of these topics. But again, you want to know what is at the front lines, and why is that important? It's important because you want to know, what is the novelty and what are the novel issues that are going on right now. One of the aspects of getting a paper published is novelty, okay? And I do criticize this a lot because by the time something is novel in the Western world, by the time it reaches different places in different countries, it's not novel anymore. And then when I come to publish my results, you're not interested in my results because they're not novel anymore. See the problem? I've already discussed this in my video on the dark aspects of research, right? It's just a practical and logistical problem, right? And so, like for example, right now me and Isra are working on a systematic review and meta-analysis. We finished it, and we're going through our first round of reviews, and one of the problems that the reviewer had with it was he thinks it's not novel, and he wants us to incorporate robotic surgeries on top of it. But then I'm just like, you know what? Robotic surgeries, there is not enough evidence for it. Isra kind of lashed out in the response to reviewers, and then she was like, robotic surgeries there is no clear-cut evidence that they are any better than laparoscopic or open procedures yet. They have a very huge learning curve, right? So for me to suddenly go from my hands to robots, and you need a real expert who understands this. There's very minimal number of surgeons out there who know how to utilize these robotic surgical devices that well, right? So there's a huge learning curve, meaning it's going to take a lot of time, a lot of patience, and a lot of practice to perfect that skill. They cost so much money as well, and at the end of the day, the outcomes it's argued that they're not so significantly better than either laparoscopic or open surgical procedures, right? So you have to defend, your stance. You have to defend your opinion, and for their sake, they think it's not novel enough, right? Because robots are more interesting now. Robots are more interesting for you in the USA. Robots are more interesting for you in Germany. They are not more interesting for me here. They're not more interesting for somebody in the Democratic Republic of Congo. We don't have robots, right? So again, laparoscopic procedures, I think, like as far as Isra, whipped it out at them essentially. She was saying in her response, like, sure, but the majority of the world relies mostly on general open procedure versus laparoscopic right now. We're dealing with a great majority of people who use this procedure, these two procedures, and it's cheaper and the results are better. So, and of course, nobody else has compared these two procedures in a systematic review and meta-analysis. So really, to save yourself the stress of dealing with trying to convince somebody that your work is worth to be read and to be published, you want to know what's novel, right? And then you assess really the need for it, essentially. So to know what's novel, attend your conferences. Know what the issues are. What are the questions being asked right now, right? The conference I just attended was like emergency surgery or emergency, like ER issues and surgical issues. So you can see like, what is the best treatment option for, bleeding, this or that. So that's a question, right? What is the best treatment option for whatever, this or that? And that's a potential research question. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go through these potential topics and just kind of fish through the literature and see if there is any potential for either a review or a systematic review and meta-analysis, and then I'll just see if I can make a paper out of something, right? So to save yourself the trouble of arguing it out that your work is important enough, you might want to stick to a novel topic just to kind of minimize whatever chance it is that your work can be rejected or ignored. One of those things is novelty, unfortunately. Whatever novelty even means, again, I think it's arguable. Doesn't matter how novel something is if a healthcare system is not able to afford it or to utilize it or to use it on such a scale that it's going to even have an impact. That's arguable, right? It's not just because I want something pretty and shiny and robots, okay? But that's for me and Isra and the reviewers to argue it out. So to recap, the important things, the top three reasons you should attend conferences. Number one, you're going to get a certificate. You can put it on your CV. Number two, you can make connections. You can meet people in the audience. You can speak with like-minded persons. You can meet with professors. And like I always say, if you can meet with a professor or you can meet with one of the spokespeople, you can build a connection with them. You can ask them for future research opportunities, ask them about their work, show that you're interested, that you're dedicated, things like that. It's going to pay off in the long run. It takes time to build these things and also not look like you're being superficial at the same time. Number three is that you can use it to learn what are the issues, the frontline issues of this particular medical field or specialty. Okay. From there, you can figure out where is the novelty exactly, and see what questions are being asked. Take that chance to jump into the literature and see if you can make a literature review or systematic review of meta-analysis. I just realized last thing before I close this video is how do you attend conferences, or where do you attend, and where do you know that they're happening. Pay attention if you are in college. Pay attention to any conference posters. They usually will have a conference poster somewhere telling you about this, and if you're a student, for most part, that's usually free to attend. So look around in your campus and college to see where the posters are for them, and go and apply. And the other thing is you'll find a lot of them on Facebook. They usually advertise on Facebook. Don't limit yourself to just your college. See other colleges as well in different areas. You might need to travel, like to go to Alexandria, for example, if you're in Egypt, or to go to a different college like Ain Shams, for example. See where they are, and that's even better for you. You get to see what other colleges and hospitals and universities are doing, and what they're having issues with, or what they're struggling with, and where they're showing, great improvements on, things like that. So you're really going to expand your horizons in your learning experience overall through that. So look for other colleges, look for Facebook posts, especially just like do a vague search. You can do it like right now. You can do a vague search on Facebook events. You will see that a lot of the conferences are online, so that's even better. So you don't really need to pay money to book a hotel and travel and do any of that. So you can attend virtual. You can still get a certificate from there, and it's really nice as well. Virtual, I like virtual, honestly. it's nice. So that's how you can find your conferences. And if you guys have any more questions, feel free to ask me. I will do my best to try and answer them. In the meantime, best of luck to you, and I will see you guys in the next video. Take care.